believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, and above all, we believe in freedom of existence and self-reliance. This station is 100% listener supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, it's the fan, or you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look in the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need to ask humans to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. It's the banner. You just want to check the center of all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted. What are we doing live? That goes in the front. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Nicole. Gail is still in Ireland, lucky girl. And we have Paul Chauvin, who's been filling in for Gail while she's been gone, and who is also with us at IAQs. So welcome, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Yourself?
Pretty good. This was a really nice day today here in Brantford, Six Nations.
Same here. Over here in Maidstone.
Yeah, well, you know, I took out the lawnmower and went for a marathon with it because I thought it was going to rain. And then by the time I was done, the sun came out. So I could have went a little bit slower, you know, and saved myself a lot of agony. But all in all, the lawn looks great, so I'm kind of happy.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful day here all day today. No cloud in the sky pretty well all day.
Yeah, well, I saw they were chemtrailing there this evening, so that'll mean hot and humid weather for a while.
Yeah.
So it'll come next couple of days. Yeah, so anyways, this week we'd like to encourage, especially everybody who's listening to the show, to go to, you know, you're already on Freedom Slips if you're listening right now. And you can also order 30,000 seeds, give some donations. You can also participate in getting, you know, all of the archives from all of the shows. And that helps all of us be able to, you know, kind of support the station, because this is all free. And if everybody wants to keep listening, then, you know, and have the archives or seeds, everything helps. So anyways, that's a little bit of our housekeeping. Usually Gail does this, and she's more fluent than I am on this side of it. But anyways, we'll get back to this week's news and you know, discuss some of the issues that we've been faced with. And this week we were looking a lot at racism. At least I was, anyways. And in the context of there was a picture of a gentleman that was actually shown on Facebook, and then I posted it and I asked, could this be you? And you know, it was a really racist comment, and on it was that you know, basically the gentleman was saying that he was glad that you know, they killed all the Indians, and it really frustrated a lot of people. But in the end, what happened is you know, that picture was Photoshopped. everybody kind of jumped to conclusions. And I was telling everyone on my Facebook that that's kind of a what I've learned from that is that that's kind of a reflection on me, in the sense that I jumped to conclusions. This man might not even be guilty of anything. He might have had another sign and somebody photoshopped that on, and all it's doing is propagating hate. So should the question was, should we repost these types of things and you know feed into it? And really, when we do that, the first thing that I should have done was, before reposting it, make my comments, in regards to, that I can't believe that a person would write such a thing. And I can't even imagine how that could have been done. And in the end, it's like, well, why did I even post it to begin with? I should have thought a little bit more. First of all, can't point the finger at this man because maybe he's totally innocent. And second of all, thirdly, um, it does aggravate people, and a lot of people don't pay attention on Facebook, especially that they're not going to bother reading everybody's comments, and they're just going to react. So it is a good point to make that, when we see bad things on there, sometimes you have to discuss things. You have to bring it in, the issue at the forefront, and not be so quick to shove everything under the rug or put your head in the sand. So that debate came about within this post, and that was good because we do have to talk about racism and what's happening, not just in Canada but globally, and how they're dividing and conquering everybody. And to this day, it still works. We know about it, but consciously, we're always. I think. A lot of times we're just a little too quick to react. And so I'm going to try and be more sensitive in that sense, where before I make a judgment call, to at least have all the facts, and try to be more diligent in my research. I do research on everything else, and then when it came to this post, I didn't really do my research. So I was guilty as sin, for jumping to conclusions.
Well, we all do that sometimes. You see something and you just want to, it strikes you, in a personal chord with you. But then it's happened to everybody, I'm sure. You posted something that's a little too quick on a draw, and you go on emotion rather than do any fact checking.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Bruce McDonald who wants to come in, so I will pull him in right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bruce there?
Oh, hang on here.
You lost him?
No, I just got to add him to the call.
Okay.
I just love Bruce. Hey, Bruce, welcome.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Hey, Bruce.
I was just listening in there. Carry on.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to multitask here a little bit, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm a little slow on the draw.
How's the weather in Costa Rica right now?
Every day is perfect here, Paul. The actual town I'm living in, Atenas, right now, National Geographic said in 1998, it has the best climate in the world.
Really?
You're prime area in the world then.
Yeah, the best climate in the world.
Wow, I'll bet. So what's it like? Like, is it, well, if it's the best climate, I guess it's moderate all the time. Not too hot, not too cold, not too dry, and not too humid. Is that about right?
You don't need air conditioning or heat.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding. That's my perfect
So
weather.
Energy footprint is really low. You basically just your lights, your stove, and your fridge.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you guys talk for a little minute. I need to organize something here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, we started talking about the racism. There's a truth and reconciliation thing going on. Like, they were. It was the residential schools were run by them. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you look at my connection, Bruce and Paul, like, well, Paul knows about it. I was reading a document about how the Saint-Sulpice, which is kind of a faction of the Jesuits, and they're the ones who teach the Jesuits and all the priests into priesthood. And these guys never took the oath of poverty. And if you look at the history of Montreal, I was reading the history of Montreal, where the Saint-Sulpice, you know, what their involvement was, and in there it had listed the Algonquins, the Six Nations, the Mi'kmaq, and Temiskaming, Quebec, where I was born. And I just about fell off my chair because they are the ones who manipulated everything here in Canada. And if you look at the history behind the building, which is what we have on our website in IQs, actually the Freemasons built Parliament Building.
Okay.
You know, and then you have all of the connections between them, and it's very interesting to see the dynamics of what Canada was built on. So you know, I mean, if you look at like I said, the history of Parliament, and then in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the building there, the Parliament building there, it's all Freemasonry. So the two are intertwined. So,
Yeah.
you know,
there's also the Knights of Malta. You showed me the connection of my family, my ancestry in that one.
yeah, and you know, that's St. John's Ambulance, the Order of St. John. And you know, like, I mean, as nice as they might look on the outside, you got to look a lot deeper into it, because they're an arm of the Knights Templar. So, you know, when we're looking at the history and then the assimilation of the people, the nations right now, you know, they've always been worried about assimilation within Canada. Now it's like I'm hearing, you know, a lot of the Indigenous peoples, you know, worry about that. And it's like, well, guess what? If you think that you're going to be able to fix the assimilation, you know, to stop the assimilation between the Indigenous peoples and the Canadian citizens, well, now you got to worry about world assimilation, because this is what we're undergoing. And I've been able to prove that within all of the new programs that they've instilled worldwide. And now the UN is going so far as to, you know, they've got a business section now on how they are going to, how they deem the businesses should be run everywhere. So everything stems again from the UN. And if you look at precedents and everything else, again, the Vatican is number one, and then all the kings and queens and the heads of state are all fall under them. And that's like that, as well as the United Nations, within 2 documents, still in effect today.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's again, it's the same revolving cycle. People don't know their history. You know, now I was speaking at the beginning how I kind of put my foot in my mouth with a post on Facebook, and but it made me realize how I didn't stop to think, and I've been complaining about people not being able to think for themselves. And I think one of, you know, the worst aspects of humanity right now is, you know, Carl Jung said that humanity was undergoing what did he call it? It's a virus, and it has to do with the ego. And that we have to admit that we are part of the problem, and not be so quick to blame. Like, if there's a situation that we're in, we are the ones to blame, and we do play a part in this. And he's absolutely right. You know, like all my I'm 52 years old, and you know, my life consisted of trying to get some kind of education, uh, and or work that would bring me a lot more money than just a minimum wage. Then, having a child, and you get married, having a child, having a house, white picket fence, you name it, hockey, 4 days a week, and doing the PTA thing, and and then all of a sudden I wake up and all this stuff is going on. It's like, where was I? And you live the illusion of civilization. And there was a quote in Paul Levy's article in regards to Jung, and he said something about the not the Dalai Lama, but Gandhi. And one gentleman asked him, "What do you think of the Western civilization?" He says, "Maybe that would be a good idea, because civilization would mean that you don't kill each other. That's what civilization is supposed to be. You're supposed to be getting along, not killing each other."
Yeah.
And when you look at civilization today, the definition is totally changed.
Yeah, really civilized.
Yeah. So, civil society is not supposed to be killing each other, and yet we do. And we allow our governments to do this. And by allowing our governments to do this, we are guilty as sin.
Yeah, but look at what we're up against. They got control of the military, they got control of the police. The police follow the laws, and the military follow orders.
Yeah, but this is where when you said they have control, we're supposed to turn this around to where we have control.
Yeah, I agree, but how do we go about doing this when they're the ones who are holding all the power strings?
Well, that's it. Like,
That's
there's a simple solution. If everybody adopted direct democracy in every country, we'd be well on our way to deciding what we want in our countries. If you're looking at CETA right now, for Canada, one of the provinces decided they were waiting on a $400 million donation. This was, I think, New Brunswick and Labrador, and they were waiting for a nice donation from the federal government within the CETA agreement, and now the federal government didn't want to pay. So now New Brunswick is saying, well, we're not giving up our jurisdiction, and this is on fisheries, okay? So within CETA, we lose our jurisdiction in Canada to the European Union. We only get one vote, and then they'll have jurisdiction over everything in Canada as soon as that document is signed. Everybody's afraid of the TPP and all of these other ones, but nobody is paying attention to CETA. CETA will remove our rights to print our own money. Yeah. We would have to ask the European Union, permission, basically, like all these other countries, for us to print our own money. Now, how ridiculous is that?
So the laws in our Constitution that we have about that will be moved, really. We won't be able to print our own money. Like we have Rocco Galati trying to do something about that, and they could be cutting us off at the knees by signing CETA.
Yeah, and Bruce, you work for a bank. That's yeah, these are private banks, and trying to get the Bank of Canada going back again, at least to work for the people. The CETA will destroy all that, and people are so oblivious to that. It's not even funny.
Well, they might be against it, the CETA as a trade deal, but not know in fact what is really inside this deal. Like, I don't know either, but that's one aspect that I looked into, and I heard about it and I looked into it. We saw it together, and it's in there. Yeah, they can. We're going to be bound to making. I mean, they're going to be dictating our economy, basically.
Yeah, well, it's not just our economy. The bottom line is people, they refer to everything as the economy. The bottom line is it's our way of life.
Yeah.
That it affects everything that we do in life. So it doesn't matter. It's you know, they can control what we buy, how it's made, how we use it, when we can use it. You know, all of these things by corporations. I mean, this is sheer insanity, and it's not just them. You got to look at the root cause, and this is what Jung says as well. You know, you have to look at the root problem. Right now, worldwide, with everything that's happening worldwide, we are the root cause. We are a virus. And the thing is how do you change that? How does one person stand up to all this and say, hey, you know, we need to change this? And but we're in the complete zombie era. You know, I mean, we're the Walking Dead.
This is the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, absolutely. So every week, you know, like we've got this show, Solutions Network Radio, and we're trying to get solutions out there, but people don't even care, don't listen, don't, you know,
Or they got their own solution that they figure everybody should be doing. And, vote for so and so. You know, it's
it's repeating the same mistake.
Yeah, well, if you're going to do this, use the same system that you've been using all along, yeah, you're going to be doing the same thing and expecting different results, which is futility.
Yeah. Bruce, how is it in Costa Rica, you know, government-wise and all this?
Well, it's a very interesting question, especially in context to the native question, because there is a pretty large native population in Costa Rica. I don't know what, well, I don't know what percentage of overall population it is, but the government, there are reserved here, and but the natives, they kind of are much more autonomous and traditional than North American natives. Government is, you know, I got to be careful, right? Because there's actually an anti-defamation law in this country. So if there was actually a Costa Rican listening to this show, knowing that I was in Costa Rica, I'm not joking either.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to criticize Costa Rica, yeah. But the government takes a lot of its lead from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
They have very good relations with the U.S. We're bordered by two countries that have a little bit of enmity toward us, Nicaragua and Panama.
Ooh.
And the reason they have this enmity is that in both of those conflicts, the Panamanian conflict when they were hunting down Noriega, and the Sandinista conflict in the 80s in Nicaragua, and the Sandinistas are back big time. They're actually in the government in Nicaragua now. So there's a lot of hostility there, and Costa Rica has no army. It's a very peaceful place. I'll say that, and there's a genuine culture here.
Mm-hmm.
And by genuine culture, I mean it's here whether government's here or not. You know how they're always trying to manufacture what they call culture in Canada? Ontario Arts Council, Canada Arts Council. It's all nonsense, right? It's all there's no real culture there.
No.
And here they do have a genuine culture, and it's in the way that people treat each other. It's an extremely peaceful place.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no malice in people over here. Everybody's friendly. Everybody's smiling. There's no pharmacology. There's very little psychiatry. And everybody's pretty happy. I have found that in my travels, and I've been all over the world and lived in different countries, not just visited, but I find that the more material the society is, the more unhappy the people are.
Well,
the higher the skyscrapers, the more unhappy they are.
Well, you know, it
makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. It does too, because, you know, people are so disconnected within, you know, when you're connected to cement, you're not connected to the earth.
Right.
You know, the vibrations, and then even, you know, like in a city, the sun beats on that cement, you know, everything's hot, or it's just not the same thing. It's like your energy is always bouncing off the walls, because that's all there is walls, you know, cement walls everywhere. Very little do they you know, they don't have that many trees or birds, or I mean, I remember downtown Montreal, all of a sudden I'd hear a bird and I go, oh wow, you know. It's like
yeah, the natural sounds here are overwhelming.
Yeah, and
The birds and everything. I mean, we'll be sitting on the back porch in the evening, my wife and I, and you'll just hear this loud thump, and it's a mango falling from a tree. And it's kind of, and you know, um, yeah. So there's a lot of natural sounds here, especially in the morning. I find the animals more intelligent. Like very few animals, very few dogs require a leash. The only time you leash an animal is if it's potentially dangerous, like a Rottweiler or a American Stafford or a Pit Bull. But like dogs are running around everywhere. They know not to go on the road. I mean, I remember saying to people, like, why are the dogs so smart here? You let a dog off a leash in Mississauga, it's going to be dead in 30 minutes.
yeah.
Right? It's going to walk. You know, if the streets are anywhere near busy, but they just get everything figured out here, right? So I really like it here. You know, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm here for specific reasons, right? I've been coming here since 2000. I met the woman I married this year. I met in 2000. She came to Canada. She was the sister-in-law of a Canadian friend of mine who married her older sister, and we've been friends for 15 years. And we got married, and I've always, when I reached a certain age, and when my son was 18, I wanted to come here. But it also ties into a lot of my worldview too. So I'm going off grid. Like we're building now on our farm. We have 100 acres, and you know, we're building earth bag houses, and we're going to start a little co-op and grow all our own food and keep all our own meat stocks. Got the water set up. It's pure mountain spring water.
Wow.
So I don't see a bright future, and I sometimes feel a little guilty coming on your show, Nicole, because you guys are really proactive. You're on the front lines. You're fighting, and I'm more of like, well, I'm just going to take myself out of it.
And you should feel guilty. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, you know, everybody's got a job to do, Bruce. And, you know, when you come on this show, you're my sanity. Okay? Paul loves it. Barbara loves it. Everybody loves it. And, you know, Gail and, you know, our listeners. So you're a breath of fresh air, and you're so full of information, and you're not just, you're not full of yourself. So, you know, so you're a blessing in disguise.
Do you speak Spanish? Can you call my wife and tell her I'm not full of myself?
all I can do is call her and say, unos, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. That is about it.
Yeah, she's here. Somebody other than me.
Yeah, but you know,
yeah.
don't feel any guilt over that, because you're preparing our eject button here. You know,
what you're doing is what we should be doing here. Be more bringing things back to basics more, and being more communal. And we are. It's the society here is so divided and conquered already that you know, where everybody's on their own and doing their own thing. There's no, you know, you're lucky if you can even smile at somebody and they'll smile back, or you know, sometimes. Yeah, like I like where I live. It's a small town and it's more relaxed, and people are more like that. But in big cities, I remember the first time I went to Toronto. You're at the bus station and you smile at somebody and they're looking at you nervously, like you know, they're looking for the way out. You know, it's not a way to live. You know.
Yeah.
People need to be more connected with one another and be able to, I don't know, I mean, you're talking about, there's no psychiatrists over there. Well, geez, like, you know, a lot of the mental illnesses that they've pretty well invented, you know, they're just things that people go through, you know, normally, but they got a pill for that, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very, you know, like Paul, I'm an old Canadian family. Not as old as him, I guess, with the name Chauvin. He came over with the French, but I came over with the Scots. My family's been in Canada since about 1790. And, you know, I feel tremendously guilty about our history and what we did to the Aboriginals, because the Scots were always the fist of the English, not because we wanted to be, but basically we were the first ones that were tormented by them. And so I have a very good sense of tactics and fighting. I grew up boxing, and then in Taiwan I studied Wing Chun, and I know when you can and when you can't win a fight. And I don't mean to be pessimistic in this call, but I don't think we can win. I don't think we can turn this G20 system around. I mean, even if China and Russia present an alternative financial system, as you were saying in last week's show, that's a red herring. No matter where you go, there they are. You have to go somewhere they're not interested in and just live your life. And you have to be willing to give up all their candy. And you need a lot of inner resources to do that. You need to know who you are and what you are. Not a lot of people can leave their culture. They think they can. They leave for a couple of months and they go back home.
Yeah, but Bruce, one of the reasons why we're fighting so hard, and I know that you're fixing all that, like you have a son, and your wife has a son, and
Yep.
I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I have a 28-year-old who will have a family, and I almost wish that he wouldn't right now, given what I think is coming, what I feel is coming.
Oh, yeah.
And unless we can change things around, then then by all means. But until then, I wish he and his girlfriend would wait. But that's not my decision to make. Although I can voice my opinion. It's like, what do we leave our kids if we don't fight right now? And this is why, like what you're doing in Costa Rica, you're giving us back the information about how we can do things up here. And, or if we want to take a plane one day and say to hell with it, we can always run and overwhelm you with our beautiful presence. And
You can come. Bring maple syrup.
Well,
the only thing I really miss.
Will do. But
the Western world and Canada especially, which I find really alarming, is on this path that is just so ugly now. And I just don't think it can be turned around. I mean, maybe it can be, but not without a lot of bloodshed. And it's just, I don't know.
Well, the bloodshed is what they want, and this is why, with I accuse with the Convention of Consent, it could be done with no bloodshed. All it is ink on a sheet of paper. You sign your name. You don't even have to protest. Don't even have to do that. But the thing is that people need to come together. Until the people come together, there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied.
Well, I find that people are still stuck in the complaint mode. They're complaining. They haven't stopped to think about solutions about their complaints. Look for different ways of solving the problem as opposed to just complaining about the problem.
Yeah.
That's how we started with the group of and political parties for direct democracy, to bring out to get people talking about stuff like that. If people don't hear about direct democracy, you ask the average person, do you know what direct democracy is? No, they won't have a clue. They'd have to Google it up or whatever themselves to find out what it is. And I've been doing a little bit of research ever since then to, I found out about it, to know more about it and our different types of democracy. There's liquid democracy, there's various forms of direct democracy. It's not something that's written in stone. It can be done only a certain way. There's different people all over the world that have got different ideas on these things. Etienne Schwab from France. I've talked to people from Brazil. There's people out there with solutions on things, and those are the kind of people that we need to pay attention to and think, look at what they're offering or what their ideas are, and that's the way people should be dealing with things, as opposed to just complaining about what's going on the next day or whatever. There's always something to complain about.
Yeah.
Well, my rant's over. Go ahead.
Well, people are always going to disagree. I've been talking to a lot of people in Costa Rica who've done what I'm doing, which is set up a small eco village. And some of them will have 60 houses, and they'll have maybe 120 people. And and they're explaining their dispute resolution system to me. And wherever you go, any community, tribal, village, town, city, province, state, country, world, you're going to have conflict. That's unavoidable. So I don't have any utopian ideals in that sense, but what alarms me is just the definition of property now and who owns it, and how you get to use that property, and what they're doing to the world, and what they're doing to the air and the water and the soil. And I want to create a space where at the very least, that what you're doing is good and the food you're eating is good, because all of the conveniences that we've achieved in the last 60 or 75 years are so toxic now. I mean, when you look at the rate of disease and lethal disease, I don't want to say any names because I don't even want to give them that power, but you can't tell me that this is you can't tell me that this is not a byproduct of all of this stuff we've created, the processed food, even laundry detergents. When Wendy Mesley on CBC got cancer, she got breast cancer, and she did a lot of research, and it was some of her best reporting, actually. And she came to the conclusion that a large contributant is all of the chemicals we use now. And chemicals kind of get a pass when you think about it. I mean, we talk about nuclear plants, we talk about Monsanto and genetics, and we talk about CERN, and when we talk about science gone mad and things that could destroy the world. But nobody really thinks about chemicals that much. But every single time you create a new chemical compound that's not part of the natural world, you're creating something that the world doesn't know how to digest or get rid of.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately myself. I think the big turnaround on the way people think is when they started coming out with chemicals. The drug industry, the manufacturing industry for like plastics and oil, and you go on and on. And it's all manufactured chemicals, basically, or products that are chemically based that kind of took over. And it's like these companies were making stuff, and they would find something to use this stuff for. Like they try, like how fluoride ended up being used for what it's used for now. It was just a byproduct of aluminum one time. And they found that it made Jewish people docile during the German version of the Holocaust. They're called Holocaust.
Yeah. No fluoride in the water over here. That's another plus, right? So that's pretty cool right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're getting what you said, mountain.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, even in the cities and stuff, they don't fluoridate the water here.
That's good.
Right.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I find people much more intuitive over here, like frighteningly intuitive, and just a lot smarter in a lot of ways. Not book smart, not like PhD or anything like that.
Street smart.
Just common sense smart.
Yeah, common sense is how I would say. Yeah, just common sense smart, and very difficult to fool and all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, well, see, like when we're talking about fluoride, I mean, it's kind of amazing. In Quebec, a lot of the rural properties, nobody gets, was fluoridated. And now, when Pauline Marois was premier, she wanted to fluoridate all of Quebec. And I think that's why Quebecers are so, gung-ho on and ready to fight all the time, because they are more awake than the rest of the provinces.
Yeah.
But now they're...
I'm kind of lucky that here that stop fluoridation in our water. Like I get my water from Windsor, and they stopped fluoridation in water in Windsor. It was they basically threatened with a class action suit on the municipal government here to stop fluoridation. That got them to stop. So the thing is, though, I got to believe there's still some fluoride in the pipes. It's got to be, it's going to be a while before all of it's gone. And other chemicals that they put in the water is not all that great to keep it, clean either. You got to wonder what kind of side effects you get from some of the things like chlorine. I don't know. Of course, I haven't looked into that one.
Yeah.
That's no matter what we're eating anymore, we've got chemicals or whatever we're ingesting.
Well, Paul, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he mentioned that one of his buddies is a not a funeral director, but how do you call that? He takes care of the bodies.
Mortician?
Mortician, yes. Oh my God, I should have thought of Morticia. I just saw black hair going through my mind. But anyways, yeah, mortician, and apparently now, before they used to have to hurry up to clean out a body, because of the stench. Now they can wait 10 to 13 days, and I'd like to do I need to research that. I always end up doing something else, but we need to look more into this fact, because he says that there's so many chemicals in the bodies now that they're prolonged for a lot longer.
They take longer to decay.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't decay so easily because of all of the chemicals we have in our bodies. So, when you're looking at cancer and all these other diseases, I mean, even when I'm spraying Lysol, for on the sheets and everything like that, Lysol spray, what am I breathing in? The other day, I smelled like a walking can of DEET, because I had to go outside, and the mosquitoes were so bad that actually it was musk oil, but I practically drenched myself in it just to go back out and finish what I needed to do without even thinking, that I'm breathing all of this in.
A lot of natural cures or natural stuff that we used to use for those things a long time ago, but those got forgotten. And the chemical industry basically took over and gave us something for everything. You want to get rid of bugs? We got stuff for that.
Well, hey, I've got 4 citronella plants. I mean, I should know better and put some in a bottle with water, mix it up, and spray myself with that, if anything. But what do? I grab the bottle of musk oil with DEET, So, like even our deodorant, everything. One girl says she doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and she's a radio announcer, and she said that she went and got her blood tested for chemicals, and it came back at 97%.
Wow.
97%. She said she doesn't know why.
Huh.
Yeah, she doesn't know what she's doing. Well, all of the air and everything, our clothes, you perspire, that goes in. I mean, how many kids, are out? I remember some kids, they couldn't use Downy in the clothes, or some of my cousins and that. So like, again, that's water, fabric softener in the wash. So everything we put on our skin and um these are things that we don't even pay attention to. Like, Bruce was saying, we're all over the map here, against uranium and blah blah blah, but then I'll turn around spray musk oil on me.
Yeah. We've come so acclimatized to that. It's unbelievable anymore, and it's all sales. Like they've been playing with our heads for a long time. The mind games that they play with us with the commercials. it's a brainwashing system that they have with the TVs and the ads. It's just,
Yeah.
How do people see through that? How can people not see through that?
Yeah, but you know, they're all like me 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I was, like, I was right in it too, and it took me, I don't know, I started finding out about things and looking into things a little bit more a few years back, and I am where I am now. I know what I know, and it's kind of, once you know something, you kind of know it. You find that it's almost your duty to know more and do something about this.
Yeah, well, I guess we can all blame, you know, Apple and Microsoft for our rude awakenings.
Actually, we could thank them for putting us in a situation where we could talk like this.
Absolutely.
And, that's one of the things about the internet. It's a double-edged sword for them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's going to cut them as opposed to cut us. Like they want to cut us off, really. So and try to limit our internet more. There's always talk.
Yeah, well, look.
Haven't done anything.
Yeah, well, look at all the young men who are coming out with, you know, the common. They're developing all kinds of programs for free for everybody, and you know they've got other accesses to other internet sources, and you know they're all working for our benefit because they know that they want to cut us off. So you know I think that in the end they're going to lose that battle unless they turn everything off. And you know and what I was a while ago we were discussing. I mean, they want the violence. They want us. They're doing everything for us to go to violence. Oh, keep that in mind, everybody. We'll be right back. Bruce, Paul, Barbara. See you in a few minutes.
solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Nicole, and we were discussing earlier, the state of the countries, and right now what I'd like to do is a little bit of house cleaning, and what our gracious host at Revolution Slips has done is provide everybody the ability to get at least 30,000 seeds. And it helps contribute to be able to offer these radio shows to everyone, because it is listener supported. So given the state of everything within not just our countries but within the world, it's really important that we start growing our own foods. And 30,000 seeds might sound like a lot, but it really isn't once you start seeing how many you might need to grow whatever you need. So anyways, please support this radio station by ordering the seeds, and also by joining in and getting the archives. So I'll leave you with that and get back to our guests, Bruce McDonald, Paul Chauvin, and now I will bring in Valerie Smith to the group. And we already have Barbara Henry that's with us from Six Nations. So hello, Valerie.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Bruce, are you here?
I am. Bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va bien? Ah oui, merci. A little bit of French for you there. So Valerie, how you been?
Good. Pretty good. Interesting evening at work.
Oh yeah, Valerie is by far one of the most needed people on the face of this planet, I think. With a lot of other people that are very much needed. And what Valerie does is, do you want to explain what you do, Val?
I give support to people with physical or developmental disabilities.
Cool. And that's home care, right? Not home care, but care in a home.
Yeah, we're not supposed to call them group homes, but that's what they are. There's usually 4 people per house. So you cook and clean, and you help them do whatever they need.
Yeah, and I think that takes a very special person to be able to handle, either physically or mentally handicapped people. And you always have to have, like Val is perfect because her person, sometimes she's too bubbly. Just kidding. You can never be too bubbly, but like she's always happy and giggling, and it's I could just imagine how warm and friendly she feels to these people. And it's not easy to be handicapped in some sort of way, or especially physically handicapped, or growing too old, and to have people bathe you or help you eat or whatever, or take you out. And I always thought, when I get to that point, it's shoot me, it's
I know. I look at some of the people I support, and I think, what a quality of life. Like, they're just a shell. The one guy I have, he just sits there and rocks his head back and forth, and they say he's humming, but I don't know what he's doing really, but that's all he does all day long.
Yeah, and you have to wonder what goes through his mind, right? Or
exactly.
And how he got that way. And the thing is we've become so self-serving that when you see others trying to communicate with people who are in such need, that's one reason, like, I have a hard time with some of the people, especially the free men on the land type thing. When they don't care. Some of the young men that I've spoken with, And it's like they don't care about the needy. They don't care about the sick and the elderly. And it's like, okay, what? Who's their mother? I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna go and I want to know who raised that kid, and for them to think that way. And we've become a society of mini dictators. I mean, I have to catch myself sometimes too. It's my way or the highway, right? And I think we've all become like that. It's all about, competing with the Joneses. It's all about being the best. And that's inbred in us in schools, mainly, I find. Because, who's got the answer? And it's like, who's the smartest and who's this and who's the fastest, and they get you into these little mini Olympics at school and everything else. And hang on there, I'm going to make noise. I got to wash a mosquito. There we go. Those suckers are big. Yeah, they are. They are. Was that really loud?
Slapped you all.
Barbara finally spoke. She slapped you all, she said. Okay. But anyways, it's like
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. You're talking empathy.
I'm talking empathy. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's not enough empathy. And
Right.
there's such a lack. There's not enough empathy. Pardon, Val?
Understanding is another thing that people could stand to adopt. A little bit more understanding for other people.
Yeah, and like
There's
we
not enough understanding up there for people. They want all the understanding for themselves, but they don't want to understand somebody else. That kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's self-serving, right? That's and this is where Carl Jung, calls this. I wish I could remember the name right now. This virus, and it has to do with the ego. It's all relative to the ego.
Yeah.
And I've never read.
I think it was called the malignant egophrenia.
Egophrenia, yeah, that's right. And like, I mean, my personal observation was that the ego creates everything, even anger, hate, jealousy, you name it. It all stems from that, and we're very malignant in that. But I think it all again stems back to the education and I find that people with a lot of people lack common sense. So Bruce, when you're saying that the people in Costa Rica are very common sense, people, and who needs an education when you've got common sense? Common sense to me will let you survive.
Yeah.
A university degree and a doctorate won't get you shit. It won't get you to survive when it's time to react or act, or common sense in doing things that at least when you have common sense and you have a group that has common sense, you're not going to be arguing so much.
It's funny how they use language in certain professions even to make themselves look more self-important. By using language that's, say, more pertinent to a profession or another. Lawyers are big on that one, but it's not just lawyers. Doctors do it too, but they have this language that they talk to you, and it's talking down to you. They generally don't try to use words that you have to ask them to break it down to layman's term or whatever. And this is the thing, it's all words, and everybody has different definitions for words. And even like some people use the word for person and how it's been bastardized to include corporations. So like, until somebody knows the true definition of what you're trying to say, whatever word you're going to use, you can't carry a dictionary with you all the time. But people misinterpret people by their own perception of the definition of a particular word. And so many. That's what's happened with our.
Yeah, well,
language.
the language confuses. There's so many different definitions for words that were lost in the context. And people, will hear a word and assume that you're referring to it as in a certain context when you're
In
not.
this context or that context. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That happens all the time. People jump on people's words, but they don't ask to clarify, or they just jump on somebody. You said that. No, I didn't mean that. It's a misunderstanding. Divide, conquer goes into the whole,
well, I think we all need to learn another language.
It actually, yeah, I speak four. I speak Spanish, French, Mandarin, and English. And learning another language does teach you a lot.
yes, it does.
It's a way of thinking. And,
Well,
you know,
yeah. Well, with me, my only other language is French, and there's a big difference. English focuses on the adjective, while in French it's the actual thing that you concentrate on, not its color or whatever. So you can see where the mentality gets screwed up in the English literal sense.
But
The red dress.
something
You're
that's
thinking
kinda-
red, right?
That's kind of something that's unique with English, actually, because
Yeah.
other languages pretty well have. That's why they say we speak backwards to them. But like when you say you put an adjective in front of the noun, blue jay. That's the English way. French, it's jay bleu.
Yeah, like Bruce, how is it in Mandarin and Spanish?
well, let me give you a real insight into Mandarin. I give this example to everybody who asks me the question that you just asked. So in English, we have lighter, as in big lighter. I'm going to light my cigar with a big lighter. The Chinese word is da hua ji, and da means hit, and hua means fire, and ji means machine. So it's hit fire machine. It's unbelievable.
Hit fire
Yeah.
machine.
Da hua ji, hit fire machine. Can I borrow your hit fire machine, please? And that really is your window into Chinese. And because it's a tonal language in which many of the words can be repeated, so in base Mandarin you have four tones, and that means the same word like ma, with four different tones is four different words. And it is said, and I don't read it and I don't understand it to that degree, but it is said that Chinese poetry is the most beautiful in the world because of that. So yeah. And Spanish is a very I don't like French and English bother me because they put gender into everything, like feminine and masculine. I don't know why they have to do that.
Yeah,
it just complicates everything, and I think it's why they're always so amorous.
yeah.
The French and the Spanish are very amorous people, very romantic people, and I think the seed is put in with blanket.
The seed was
by
put in the
making
language.
different things masculine or feminine.
Yeah, you're always thinking about men and women, right? You're all, no matter what you're talking about, you're thinking about men and women. Yeah. Never far from your consciousness.
Yeah. So
we should get back on the highway of big topics here.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, in essence, language is a huge topic because it is one of the worst barriers between us and our government. I mean, if you look at the language that they use in their acts, and it's almost I could have three people read one paragraph in an act, and people will come to the different conclusions of what that actually means, what was
They'll have
actually
their own
said.
interpretation of whatever they read. Yeah. Sometimes you have to read it more than once to get the proper representation of what it is. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Bruce, you're a technical writer, so I guess that must be a lot easier for you as opposed to like somebody with me who that I went I spent 2 months in grade 10.
Yeah.
And my biggest I learned how to speak English reading Harlequin romances. and watching TV.
Yeah. So I'll actually, my journey into linguistics goes further than spoken language because I've been a tech writer for 20 years. I do a lot of code APIs, and a code API is a lot of software products now are sold uncompiled, meaning that you just get the raw code and you have to have your in-house developers finish the code and compile the product to meet your customization. So, for example, I did an API a number of years ago for magnetic resonance imaging software. This was with Siemens Medical, and we did about 80% of the code, and the hospital coders would finish it based on what the MRI was being used for. And code seems complicated, but it's extremely literal. So just imagine a sentence where it is, and you have 10 words, okay, lovely, raining, gray, sunny, and you have 10 words that are variables that you can choose before the word day. And each of those variables is enacted by certain conditions in the sentence before. So that's coding right there. So it is a linguistic structure. And it's quite fascinating, and it's flawlessly logic. All of it's rendered to zeros and ones. And so if there's one thing that being a technical writer has taught me is that everything comes down to yes or no. Is that a yes or a no? And, so when you look at the world and the way it's going, my Boolean for that, my yes or no, my 0-1 is, do you love people or do you have contempt for people? And so the people who are making the world miserable, they have contempt for us. And they've developed this contempt by entitling themselves somehow, like the British Accreditation Registry, well, we're stupid. No, you just created a proprietary idiom. You haven't taught it to the rest of us. Your parents spent a bunch of money putting you in this institution for 7 years to learn this proprietary idiom and how to apply it, and you've now fooled yourself into believing you're intelligent. And actually you've made yourself more stupid, because anything you study that's derived, not part of nature, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
All knowledge. And that's another big problem is 80-90% of our consciousness now, all of our teaching is to survive in a man-made construct. And none of it is connected to the divine. When you were a farmer and you learned animal husbandry and seed propagation and all these sorts of things, you're simultaneously surviving and studying God, creation. Right now, oh my God! I think this is why we're all crazy. Is we're living inside something we created.
Absolutely.
And disconnected.
Yeah, and we're completely nuts. But yeah, Valerie, how come you and Paul are never in the same place when you call into this show? There's a mystery.
Well, we are today.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
We're both in the same house, just not in the same room. Paul's in the garage. He's got on his phone with his headset, and I'm on my desktop with my headset.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and if they were in the same room, it would cause. Sorry.
And we could both go on his laptop, but it gets screwy. I guess it doesn't work out so good.
Understood.
One of the reasons why I'm on the phone is because we seem to be on the end of the internet here. It cuts out every once in a while, and Nicole's got some other ideas as to why it would cut out, but we're not going to go into that one right now.
Oh, yeah? You think so? Let me tell you something, Bruce. But anyways,
with my the dog system that I have here for keeping the dogs in. I have a wireless system for the dogs. They got wireless collars, so they free range, but they can only go so far in this range. And I got my computer, I guess, just inside that range.
Nice.
Anyway.
yeah, well,
Getting back,
Bruce, to finish, so people can understand, if you've got your internet and you have, your computer, like Paul did inside the dog's collar zones, I was on the other side. My internet was still on, and Paul got disconnected last weekend, and I just looked at him. And he's like waiting for me to notice that, oh, I'm disconnected too now. But I wasn't being disconnected. I was talking to Gail in Ireland. And he had to wait to get back, for his system to to go again. And I just looked at him and he says, yeah, okay, like, but if anybody is having a hard time, check your appliances. Most appliances usually default to 6, and your microwave and everything like that. So, don't be so quick to call, your internet company, because they won't be able to figure it out if they don't know that Paul's computer is inside the dog zone, so, but anyways, to come back to, that yes, as humanity, we are insane, because you're right, like, we're living within something that man has created, and that we're the ones responsible. Like, when you're looking at the root cause, we allow for everything, and not stopping to think about something a little bit more deeper. We're at fault there, like with my famous poster on Facebook.
Yeah. And if you go back to my Boolean, and Boolean was the name of a guy in computing way back in the day, like 5 or 6 decades ago.
He invented Boolean algebra.
Yeah, so Boolean means it can only be yes or no. So that's why everything in computers comes down to a 0 or a 1, right? And why have we created everything we've created? Is it because we love creation, or we have contempt for it? Yeah, I think it's because we're expressing contempt for it. And one of the things that I gripe about sometimes on the roundtables, and sometimes when I come on radio, is that there's an incredible culture of us and them that's created in alternative radio, and it's valid in a lot of ways. But never forget, you're voluntarily participating in it, right? If you haven't left it, you're voluntarily participating in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in their jurisdiction. Now, Nicole, you would be different on the reserve. That's outside of their system. And if you'll notice, when you go to a reserve, the general social consciousness is very different than mainstream Canadian society.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yeah.
And but how do you leave? See, I mean, I just can't leave my country because I can't stand my government. I'm not going to leave my country just because I can't stand them. I have to stay here and change it because I've got a son who might decide to start popping kids, and then I'm going to be worried sick about them.
If I were Mohawk and I were living on the Brantford Reserve right now, I would be looking at the budget coming in every year, and I would be saying, what can we do with greenhouses? What can we do to start growing all of our organic produce? What can we do with animal husbandry? Can we get heritage pigs, heritage chickens, heritage turkeys, and all? I'm amazed that native culture hasn't clued into this, that they're not doing all of their own meat and vegetables. And you can do 12-month greenhouses now. You can grow in the winter.
Yeah, but Bruce, the problem there is that they don't believe all of this is happening. This is how, when I came here 6 years ago, it was for them to start growing their foods and everything. And they didn't believe me. They still don't believe me.
That's unfortunate.
Well, you have to think about what we were talking about earlier, residential schools and how they tried to assimilate First Nations, and they have assimilated to a large extent, to the system of the society that's around them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, unfortunately, they don't know their own history themselves. And I mean, we're all guilty of that. It's not just them; it's everybody's guilty of not knowing our true history of how things became the way they are, and not the rosy picture that they give you in high school. And it sickens me now that I think about it. The way that I was, the history that about this very thing, about First Nations involvement in they were much more involved in our history than they want to give them credit for.
Yeah. If you ask me, because I was forced into looking at some of their history, Before I came here, I could tell you exactly. Oh, Harper just signed a deal with Nicaragua. Why? Because the United States, every time they try to make a deal, their people are threatened or are murdered. So they wanted to be able to deal to get something in there. So they sent Harper in there to get a Nicaragua deal for the gas there and stuff. So now the United States way of going around Nicaragua was through Harper. But other stuff about Canadian history, Newfoundland, what year was Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and all these provinces, when did they actually come into Canada? I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I can tell you what Harper was doing in Nicaragua, you know. And it's like, okay, like, a lot of us have our priorities a little bit screwed, I think, from time to time.
Holds a piece of the puzzle.
Like Barbara just
Yeah.
said, everybody holds a piece of the puzzle. And when you get people together, then we can put these things in there. But again, it all reverts back to what's our priorities. And even with schools, teaching our kids the real stuff, not the fake stuff. The real history. And I know that a lot of the schools, they do good stuff, with racism and all that. But when it comes to the history and recognizing the nations, they don't, and not to the point where they should have. And even our history right now, we can't live in the past. We have to move forward and change things. But at least the past could teach us what mistakes not to make.
Yeah, I agree.
It's all part of their divide and conquer strategy, which works very well.
Well, that's it, and that's why, again, like, not to boost the IQs again, but so far it's the only solution that I've seen. It can work for most of the countries. I mean, if you look at Ireland right now, Gail is over there. I was telling her, like, pass the word around. But in a society of mini Hitlers, it is hard to try and negotiate anything or to agree. I mean, what one guy had told me, in reference to direct democracy, it doesn't work. Everybody are, well, I said, yes, like, everybody's allowed to put in their opinion. Everybody has the right to their opinion, but within direct democracy, it has to be an informed opinion.
Well said. Yeah.
It has to be informed. So education is key.
If I'm governing 1,000 people, and I don't want to contend with their opinions, the easiest thing for me to do is make their opinion irrelevant because I've made them so dumb.
Well, all you have to do is use the Delphi technique. Say, hey, manipulate them by saying, you make the decisions here. Okay, so what do you want? This, a peanut butter jelly sandwich, or caramel, toast?
Yeah, they limit your options.
Exactly.
They're basically it's a way of steering you into the mentality, the way of thinking.
Yeah, and it's very much like what it is now. So that's why I was
the illusion of choice.
Yeah, and that's why I was so interested as
I
to.
can't remember if we spoke about this last week or not, but why are we not getting more intelligence from the NDP? Why are they not talking about the Bank Act of Canada? Why are they not talking about Rocco Galati's case?
Because Mulcair was the head of sustainable development for Quebec, the Minister of Sustainable Development. He's also has a dual citizenship to France. His wife is Israeli.
Oh, yes, now I remember.
Jewish, and he's all for CETA. So he's not going to promote Galati.
Right.
Okay, that's why you're getting this from the NDP. Jack Layton must be rolling in his grave.
All the parties really have been subverted already, even the Green Party, as far as I'm concerned. From what I'm seeing, they're going to help the carbon tax is coming, I mean, they're already talking about it in Ontario.
Yeah,
it's all a good thing.
Yeah, and it's already here because we're already paying. I mean, if you get a haircut in Quebec, it's a dollar for disposal of your hair.
Jeez, get out of here, really?
Yeah, every haircut, there's a dollar that goes for the environment tax.
We take it home and bury it in the garden so that the rabbits don't eat the garden, and it works.
Yeah, well, now you'd have to fight your hairdresser in Quebec because they have no choice but to charge you the dollar. You can't. If you want to take it home, you still have to pay the dollar.
It's your hair.
You're causing a detriment to the environment.
Oh my God!
It's dead skin follicles or whatever.
That they've been doing this for over a year now in Quebec.
Wow.
Now, what about nuclear waste being stored near Great Lake? That's not. Who's gonna, like, really? Where you're worried about hair?
The one thing that people, I know, here's the bottom line, okay, whether it's sustainable development or the carbon tax, the bottom line is they're making it sound like it's coming in to save the environment by the corporations. That is the biggest bullcrap there is, because first of all, these companies are getting carbon credits. All they have to do is open an office that is green, and then they can exchange credits amongst their own companies, or they can go and buy credits on the stock market just from another company that's got tons of credits that can sell. They're going to be, this is something like when they created, what was it? Not the stock market, but the other one, where you kind of put a guess on what something's going. Oh, Jesus.
Futures.
Not futures.
Weather.
Not commodities. What is that word? Hedge funds.
Okay, that's hedge fund.
Hedge funds. So if you're looking at hedge funds, this is basically almost the same type of deal, right? And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be getting all kinds of credits. The ones who are going to be paying through the nose are us, the population, not the corporations. Okay. So
they're looking for ways to make us pay for everything.
That's right. If you look at Montreal, the city of Montreal is looking at two options: either putting tolls everywhere, or they're going to put a little black box in everybody's cars. So when you drive on the Isle of Montreal, you're going to be charged by kilometer.
Jeez.
Okay, that's one of their two options: tolls or a little black box in your car.
They're not giving us much options for what to buy for vehicles that run on alternative fuels or electric cars or anything. I'm like, that's where I come from. I worked in the auto industry, and when I started there in 1985, I thought by the time I'm retiring, we're going to be building spaceships. By the time by the time we get there, I get to retire. Here I am. I'm retired, and we're still running on the gas.
Yeah, but do you remember 2007? 2007, a guy created this nice little car in Montreal, and Harper would not allow him to put it on the highway.
I do remember that.
You remember that,
The
eh?
Zen.
Yeah.
Zero emissions, no noise.
Yeah.
It was a Quebec thing. Rick Mercer, I remember he did a good little skit on that one.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah.
So, but how many people actually even remember? There's a lot of things that we've noticed, but most people wouldn't even know about. And again, the fallacy of Canada being a country and not a corporation. People say, oh, it's a corporation. Well, it's still a country. Yes, technically it is. However, it's still a corporation. And
it's
most people see it as a country, but the thing is people don't realize, that the Queen is the Queen of Canada, not the Queen of England. The history of everything. So, that little car that was, that made kind of the news in 2007, you know, my son probably doesn't even remember that. So, how do we, um, there's got to be lots of great inventions like that came about that we don't know about. So how can I say, like, with
You
the
know,
the history of everything, if we went back to history, we might find out a lot of information. But at the same time, what do we do about this government who won't allow this information to go out to the general public?
yeah. There's so much suppressed technology. It's not even funny.
Well, yeah, like
It's
we're
not
lucky.
fun, and
We're lucky that we know, like Bruce, and Paul and Val, like we've seen these things. We know this car exists, but how many will say, "Oh, well, they never came up with that."
or I've told you about this guy named Mehran T. Kesh from Iran, and he accredits most of his inventions and patents to Tesla, but he's got all kinds of. You go on Kesh Foundation and look that up, on Google that up. That'll knock you out.
Yeah,
He's
Bruce.
got,
Sorry, Paul, but just a quick thing here, Bruce. A lot of the stuff that this guy has might interest you for what you're doing on that property.
Yeah, I'm aware of this cash fellow, but I mean, he's talking about like a very large operation. I think it involves plasma.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, I'm looking more at some kind of spig that goes in the ground, and you bring a log up and put a log arm on it, tie a mule to it, and you can generate enough city blocks.
That's
Oh,
awesome
the
too,
old
though.
way.
Yeah,
Hey, that's a
Or
fail-safe
solar.
way, though.
Solar
Yeah.
and wind.
yeah, there's those that goes into something totally different.
Mother
He
Nature.
started probably quantum physics in his day. It was actually Einstein that kind of, and people like that I'm talking about Tesla. It's somebody that not a lot of people know about. But yeah, they're using his inventions on us every day. I mean, I don't know what you've heard of chemtrails, haven't you? Just wanted before we get them all day long around here. I don't know what's it like in Costa Rica. You guys
No, there's no chemtrails here. There's something going on here where this particular country is being left alone, and I think it's because it has the highest biodiversity on the planet, and from what I understand, even these negative types have a grudging respect for nature.
Yeah, but Bruce, check. I know that Bush bought, I think, 100,000 acres somewhere in that area.
Ecuador.
Ecuador. Okay.
Yeah, they're all going down to Ecuador.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Up to over there. I wanted to get back, Bruce, to what you were talking about regarding education and the belief system.
Yeah.
I studied psychology for 5 years, and not once was the pineal gland mentioned ever. And when I learned about it a few years back, I went and looked at all my old textbooks. Not mentioned at all in any of my textbooks, Stephen.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. Why would they?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty important thing to learn about, and it's totally related to psychology.
Yeah,
If
I
you
agree.
want to know
I was
real
looking at the same
psychology.
textbooks. Same textbooks, and there's not even a picture or an image when they do the brain picture. There's not even a picture of the pineal being in there.
Yeah, they totally excluded it.
Yeah. So no, they don't want anybody really knowing about that. Why would they?
Yeah, you might find out too much information.
Yeah.
You might actually take that and run and,
Do
change the
something
world.
with it.
Well, it's the same thing, they're trying to make you know, the average Joe poor. So we can't fight them. And the only ones who know what's going on are the ones who are struggling or who are awake enough to see what's going on and know how to use the internet properly. And, you know, so because we know what's going on, doesn't mean that most of the people do. And when you're looking at, you know, the odds here, they don't. But um, the thing is where the hell was I going with this? Uh, you know, with any information in regards to the pineal gland or meditation, or I mean, now the Pope is saying that meditate, you know, yoga is evil.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
You know, they had to hire. Yeah, well, he said that they had to hire 6 more. That now it seems like everybody is possessed, and they had to train 6 more priests into exorcisms to hold exorcisms.
And stretching is gonna get you possessed.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't write it. I didn't say it, but I could get you that link.
I knew there was something off about my high school phys ed teacher.
Yeah, don't stretch, and you know, but I mean, the thing is people believe things. You know, some of them instead. You know, I know that I'm guilty of believing some things because I rely on other people's judgments and trust them. But do I really know it? No. So now, like I think if we're going to go, move forwards in the future, we need to teach how to not so much a belief system, but a knowing. And, you know, to be able to have to make an informed decision within direct democracy, you have to know what you're deciding upon. So
You have to learn how to learn.
exactly. So how do we teach all these people how to learn properly? And, you know, this is where we dumped all of this information. You know, we allowed these politicians to take over and rule us, you know, by us thinking that, oh, we're in power because we vote for them, and if they don't do what we do, well, we're just going to take them out. Well, how well has that worked for us?
Well, every 4 years you have to wait to take them out. You know, that's a lot of damage can be done in 4 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, like Bruce said a while ago, what's wrong with the NDP? They're all the same. They're just giving you a new actor.
It's an ideology. We're trying to sell you an ideology. Oh, we got the best way of thinking for you. You know, okay, right.
Yeah, and they put another puppet in front of you.
We should not be voting on ideologies. We should be voting on issues and see where it falls from there. As opposed to, we wouldn't even be having this discussion about C-51 here in Canada if that was the case. You know, most people are. We shouldn't even be having this discussion. Having a bill that is so against our rights. And that's the thing. With rights comes responsibility. That's where people are missing the point to me. Is that you are responsible for maintaining your own rights. If your rights are being stepped on, raise your hand. Say something. It's up to you. And if you see somebody else's rights are being stepped on, you should actually add your voice to that as well. If you see it happening in front of you. So, you know, that's part of being an adult, is to be responsible for having those. If you want those rights, then you have to be responsible. That's my view on that one anyway. And to me, if people learn this concept of rights, what they really have, what natural rights are versus legal rights, because really that's all you have is legal rights. There's no such thing as natural rights. You're bound to the legal rights that they bestow on you and the jurisdictional governance that you're in. You know what I mean?
That's the thing too, right, Paul?
Well, yeah, basically it is. It's a belief that they can restrict your rights according to where you're in, your just jurisdiction. That's no, you're stuck in this society, and this is doesn't matter if you consented to it or not. You're everybody's going along with it by playing along with this. So we're playing this play and pretending that this is real, but it doesn't have to be this way. If people understood the difference between legal rights and natural rights, they probably want natural rights, hands down. Unless you're a true statist where you believe that without government we would not exist. You know.
Yeah, and most people think that we do already have natural rights, but the
Yeah,
reality is we don't.
that's right. That's the misconception that everybody. If you look it up, natural rights, legal rights. It's in Wikipedia, and we'll explain it to you right there. I've been trying to put that out for people to see, and just so that people can understand what you truly have. Because really, people don't. I didn't know the difference until recently, So I find out something, I throw it out there. I'm learning as I go, like everybody else does.
I really don't know the difference either myself. But should we, like, don't we really have natural rights? They're just not respected.
They're assumed rights.
But
Natural.
See, this is where I feel as though we should rewrite the Bill of Rights. The Canadian Bill of Rights should go to the Canadian Bill of Rights and Responsibilities. And if we were taught that at a young age, instead of any religion, this is what you have. Your rights are these, and this is your responsibility. You get responsible enough to be able to take care of that. To make sure that you're upholding your own rights and everybody else's rights around you, and not infringing anybody else's rights. You're good to go.
Yeah, and that's what we're told. And if we believe it, they may try and make it a belief. I have to throw a little plug in for this book I just started reading. It's Dirty Tricks of the Brain, Keeping Humans Ignorant, Divided, and Dangerous by Martin Camilleri. And it talks all about belief systems and like beliefs and how like in education and university and college or whatever, or you read the Bible, you're supposed to just take it for its word. And it's just all a belief, but you know what? You don't have to believe that. You can have an open mind and not believe anything. Like believe what your heart tells you, what your spirit tells you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's some things that they might be right about, but the thing is you're supposed to attain that knowledge for yourself, not rely on somebody else. It's like
Yes.
Celebrating Christmas dinner, like the Christmas holidays. Well, well, this is our tradition, and we always do it this way. And if you don't do it that way, then they're all angry with you. Well, that's pretty much in the box thinking, right?
Yeah, we're putting too much pressure on. We're putting too much pressure on ourselves by doing things like that.
Yeah.
We stop.
I mean, expectations is one of the things that are that is the biggest letdown.
Yeah, well, see, Bruce, you're going to be, possibly entertaining other people living with you and sharing this like that communal living type scenario.
Yeah.
And I think,
I got a feeling. I got a feeling a lot of people will be ringing me up in the next 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. I have no doubts about that. And, common sense, you can have your best buddy with you and you say, okay, well, let's go and get an apartment together. And then you get an apartment together, then all hell breaks loose, right? You love each other, but you can't stand to live together. And especially in kind of an environment where everybody are, basically we're mainly either you have your real followers or your little dictators. I'm a little mini dictator, not so much the follower, but I'm usually easygoing. But if I have something in my head and to me, I know it to be true, I'll argue black and blue, without sometimes thinking past my nose. So that's something I'm trying to work on. But to live in a community type setting, I think everybody needs to be on that.
I agree with that. I think it all essentially starts from yourself and work your way up.
Well, you have to start learning too.
You have to work on yourself and then learn to communicate with others around.
Yeah.
That's basically what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go back to that, instead of like, why do I have to ask the city to get a permit to put a shed in my backyard when I could just go ask the neighbors if do you mind if I put a shed there? And they're gonna.
Have to ask the neighbors. What are they gonna care?
Well, it's what they got us into this. Where you have to get a permit to put up anything on your property anymore. So, but they're binding you to whatever you put. It's everybody else. But if we talk to one another a little bit better and a little bit more, we wouldn't have to have permits for everything. Where you're paying money for somebody else to take care of something you could take care of on your own just by going around in the neighborhood and asking.
They gotta make their buck, eh?
Yeah. But
this is one of their ways of keeping us separated.
Yeah. Well, we've got, as Valerie said, 6 minutes left to finish off with the show. And before we move on here within a few minutes, I just like to make a note, like with Bruce, that what you're undertaking with a communal living, that's going to be, it's going to be, I think it's going to be easier for us to, it won't be as hard for us to keep doing what we're doing here, try and wake up people, as it is for you to kind of become an example of a real community living with people, within the next 3 years or so that will be knocking on your door. I think that's, to me, it's something that we should all watch. And, as you progress, how things go, because you're actually living the dream.
I think it could be done. Go ahead.
They're growing like weeds now. Like there's all kinds of them in Costa Rica. These eco villages. A lot of them are just doing them. It's just another kind of capitalism, right? They're charging exorbitant prices, and it's becoming kind of a fad. But I don't even know if I'm going to live there 12 months a year, right? Like I'm going to have to go back to Canada to work sometimes. I'm fortunate to have a contract I can telecommute to right now, but I just want to have this there for my retirement and everything. Sorry, Paul, I cut you off.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's fantastic, okay. Bruce. So, keep us updated, and please join us again. Valerie, thank you so much. And Paul.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next week. Mm-hmm.
We hello?
We hello. Okay.
I'm looking at a beautiful moon right now. It's not a full moon yet.
Not a full moon yet?
No.
Is that Val's moon?
Val's moon? Val,
Val
are you
mooning?
mooning him?
I'm here. I'm not telling.
No, we're not. I'm outside. She's inside. So
you wouldn't see me if I was.
Yeah.
Okay, Bruce didn't answer.
But I might be.
Well, I'm going now. See. Hello.
Hey, Bruce.
Hello. Oh, hello.
Hi.
You thought you had a real phone
In the
call?
bathroom.
Okay. We
I
follow.
want a coffee, and I find I have to urinate a lot because I drink a lot of coffee. So
Okay, well, we follow you
I could
anywhere,
not have
Bruce.
gotten that call. I could not have gotten that call without wetting my jeans.
Too much info.
Part of my interesting
You
evening
guys want
at
to
work.
keep talking?
Well, the thing is we usually bring everybody back for like a little debrief and thank you, and you know, 'cause we did
Yeah,
notice the
just-
time go by.
I like
Yeah,
the
it-
conversations afterwards a lot. They're awesome.
Yeah, it helps. You know, it helps for future
Yeah.
shows even too.
And you don't need to
'cause,
stay
like,
on,
We
but you
missed
can if you want.
We missed something and we could have said whatever. You know, the topics that we covered a lot of topics there. We could have gotten in detail about any one of those. That every one, like there's so many rabbit